The notification arrived at 3 in the morning on a cold Tuesday in November. Maya Chen was sleeping in her small apartment above her grandmother's noodle shop when her phone buzzed with a message that would change everything. She ignored it at first, thinking it was spam or another reminder about her overdue electricity bill. She was wrong. When she finally looked at the message 6 hours later while eating cold rice for breakfast, her tired eyes went wide. The letter was written in symbols she had never seen before, but somehow she could read every word as if they were English. It said that she had been accepted into the Celestial Academy of Universal Excellence, the most powerful military and scientific institution in the known galaxy. Her training would begin in 72 hours. A transport ship would arrive at the coordinates provided. Maya read the message 5 times, then she laughed because this had to be a joke. She was nobody. She was a 22-year-old woman who had failed her university entrance exams twice. She worked part-time at a convenience store and helped her grandmother cook noodles on weekends. She had never applied to any academy, especially not one from outer space. The whole thing was obviously fake, but the coordinates led to the empty parking lot behind the abandoned factory at the edge of town. And Maya, being the curious person she was, decided to go there just to see what would happen. Maybe someone was filming a prank video. Maybe she could get famous on the internet for being a good sport about it. 72 hours later, Maya stood in that parking lot with a small backpack containing 3 changes of clothes, a toothbrush, her grandmother's lucky jade bracelet, and a bag of dried fruit snacks. The night was cold and silent. Nothing happened for 20 minutes. Then the sky opened. A ship the size of a football stadium descended through the clouds without making a sound. It was black and silver and shaped like a teardrop. And Maya's legs stopped working. She wanted to run, but her body refused to move. A beam of blue light shot down from the ship and surrounded her. And she felt herself rising into the air like gravity had stopped being a rule she needed to follow. When she woke up, she was lying on a floor that felt like warm glass. Strange creatures stood around her in a circle, staring down at her with expressions she could not read because their faces were not human faces. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin that changed color as she watched. One of them had no face at all, just a smooth surface where eyes and nose and mouth should be. A being with silver skin and 4 arms stepped forward. It wore a uniform covered in medals and symbols. When it spoke, Maya understood every word, though its mouth moved in ways that did not match the sounds she heard. Candidate 7,742,891. Species designation, human. Planet of origin, Earth. Sector, outer rim, unclassified. You have been accepted into the Celestial Academy. Your training begins now. Maya's voice came out as a whisper. There's been a mistake. The silver being looked at a floating screen that appeared from thin air. No mistake. The selection process is perfect. It has never been wrong in 40,000 years. You were chosen. Stand up, human. Maya stood up because she did not know what else to do. Her legs were shaking, and her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. Around her, the other candidates were already walking through doorways that led to different parts of the ship. They moved with confidence because they belonged here. Maya did not belong here. She belonged in a noodle shop in a small town on a planet these aliens probably could not find on a map, but she followed anyway because the alternative was floating in space alone, and that seemed worse. The Celestial Academy was not on a planet. It was a planet. The entire artificial world had been constructed 800,000 years ago by a civilization so ancient that even its name had been forgotten. The Academy now controlled this world and used it to train the greatest warriors, scientists, and leaders in the galaxy. Empires sent their most talented children here. Species invested their entire futures in candidates who might bring honor to their people. Maya was the first human to ever set foot on this world. She learned this during her orientation, which was conducted by a floating sphere that called itself an information guide. The sphere followed her everywhere for the first week, explaining things she did not understand, which was everything. Your species was discovered only 300 years ago. The sphere told her as she walked through halls made of crystal and light. Earth was classified as a primitive world with no notable resources or strategic value. Humans were marked as a pre-contact civilization and left alone. This is the standard procedure for developing species. Maya stopped walking. Then why am I here? How did I get selected? The sphere hummed for a moment. The selection process is confidential. However, I can tell you that every being in this academy was chosen because they possess extraordinary potential. The process scans all life in the galaxy and identifies individuals who could become great. You were identified. Therefore, you have potential. This answer did not satisfy Maya, but the sphere could not tell her more. She spent her first night in a room that was larger than her entire apartment back home. The bed adjusted to her body perfectly. Food appeared when she was hungry. A window showed stars she did not recognize. She cried for 3 hours and then fell asleep from exhaustion. The next morning, training began. The Celestial Academy taught 3 things: combat, science, and leadership. All candidates were expected to excel in at least one area and be competent in the others. Classes were held in rooms where gravity could be changed, time could be slowed, and reality itself could be bent for educational purposes. Maya walked into her first combat class feeling like she was about to die. The instructor was a creature from a species called the Varakith. It stood 3 meters tall and looked like someone had combined a lizard, a bear, and a nightmare. Its name was Master Zorvax, and it had won more battles than Maya could count. It looked at her the way someone might look at an insect. "You are the human," it said. The translator made its voice sound flat and cold. "I have read your file. You have no combat training, no genetic enhancements, no psychic abilities. Your species cannot even survive in vacuum for more than a few seconds. Why are you here?" Maya's mouth was dry. "I don't know." Master Zorvax made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Honest. Good. Honesty will help you when you fail. And you will fail. Human. Everyone fails here. The question is whether you fail permanently or whether you get up and try again." The class began with a simple exercise. Candidates were paired together and asked to spar using only their natural abilities. No weapons, no technology, no psychic powers. Just bodies against bodies. Maya was paired with a being called Zenthor, who came from a species that had been genetically perfecting themselves for 10,000 years. Zenthor was faster, stronger, and smarter than any human could ever be. Zenthor was also only 16 years old. The fight lasted 4 seconds. Zenthor moved so fast that Maya did not even see it happen. One moment she was standing. The next moment she was on the ground with pain spreading through her ribs and stars dancing in her vision. Zenthor stood over her with what might have been pity in its large dark eyes. "Stay down, human. You are not built for this." Maya stayed down. She had no choice. Her body would not respond to her commands. Master Zorvax walked over and looked at her with an expression she could not read. 4 seconds. The worst performance in 300 years. Congratulations, human. You have made history. Laughter filled the training hall. Candidates from 100 different species found this funny. Maya lay on the ground and felt shame burn through her like fire. She wanted to go home. She wanted to wake up and discover this was all a dream. She wanted to be anywhere else in the entire universe. But she was here. And she was stuck here. And she had to survive somehow. Maya's first month at the academy was the worst period of her life. She failed every combat test. She could not understand the basic principles of quantum physics that other candidates had learned as children. Her leadership simulations always ended with virtual civilizations collapsing or virtual armies retreating. She was the worst student the academy had seen in centuries, and everyone knew it. The other candidates did not bully her directly. Bullying was forbidden, and the punishments were severe. But they did not need to bully her. They simply ignored her. They looked through her as if she was not there. They spoke about her when they thought she could not hear, using words their translators did not bother to change into English because they were too rude, too dismissive, too alien for human language. Maya ate alone. She studied alone. She trained alone, staying in the combat halls long after everyone else had gone to sleep, throwing punches at training dummies that did not fight back. Her body was covered in bruises. Her mind was exhausted. But she kept going because stopping meant admitting that the universe was right about her. Stopping meant accepting that she was nothing. During her 6th week, something strange happened. She was in the combat hall at midnight, practicing a basic defensive stance that she still could not do correctly. Her arms were tired and her legs were shaking and her lungs burned with each breath. She was about to give up when Master Zorvax walked into the hall. The instructor stood in the shadows and watched her for a long time. Maya did not notice at first because she was too focused on not falling over. When she finally saw the massive creature standing there, she jumped in surprise and nearly hurt herself. You come here every night, Master Zorvax said. It was not a question. Maya nodded because she did not trust her voice. Why? You know you cannot win. Your body is weak, your species is young. You have no advantages. Why do you keep training? Maya thought about this question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. The answer was simple but hard to say out loud. She said it anyway, because giving up feels worse than losing. Master Zorvax was silent for a long time. Then it stepped into the light and did something Maya did not expect. It bowed to her. Not a deep bow. Not the bow of respect that warriors gave each other before combat, just a small inclination of its massive head. But it meant something. Your species is interesting, human. You have no natural weapons. You have no armor. You have no claws or venom or psychic shields. But you do not give up. I have watched you fail every day for 6 weeks, and you have not given up. I have seen warriors with every advantage surrender after a single defeat. You have been defeated 1,000 times, and you are still here. Maya did not know what to say. She stood there with sweat dripping down her face and pain throbbing in her muscles and waited for whatever came next. Tomorrow I will teach you personally, Master Zorvax said. Not the techniques I teach the others. Those are designed for bodies stronger than yours. I will teach you something older. Something I learned before I came to this academy, when I was young and weak and surrounded by enemies who wanted me dead. I will teach you how to survive. The lessons began the next day. Master Zorvax taught Maya things that were not in any textbook. It taught her how to watch an enemy's body and predict their movements before they happened. It taught her how to use an opponent's strength against them, how to redirect force instead of trying to match it, how to find the weak points that every creature had no matter how powerful they seemed. It taught her patience, which was the hardest lesson of all. You cannot defeat a stronger enemy by fighting the way they fight, Master Zorvax explained during one of their sessions. You must fight a different war. You must make them waste their strength on targets that do not matter. You must wait until they make a mistake, and when they make that mistake, you must strike with everything you have and pray it is enough. Maya trained harder than she had ever trained in her life. She woke before dawn and ran until she could not run anymore. She practiced the movements Master Zorvax taught her until they became part of her body. She studied recordings of combat from hundreds of species, looking for patterns, looking for weaknesses, looking for any advantage she could find. Her grades did not improve immediately. She still failed most of her tests. She still could not compete with candidates who had been preparing for this academy since birth. But something was changing inside her. She was becoming something different than she had been before. During her 4th month, she faced Zenthor again in combat training. The match was supposed to be a simple sparring exercise, just like their first encounter. Zenthor approached her with the same confidence as before, expecting another easy victory. Maya saw that confidence in the way Zenthor moved, in the slight relaxation of Zenthor's stance, in the small smile on Zenthor's alien face. Master Zorvax had taught her to see these things. Master Zorvax had taught her that confidence could be a weapon, but it could also be a weakness. Maya did not attack. She waited. Zenthor moved first, expecting Maya to react the way she always had, the way weak creatures always did when facing stronger opponents. But Maya did not try to block or dodge. She let Zenthor's attack pass through the space where she had been a moment before. She moved not away from the attack but alongside it, turning Zenthor's momentum into a trap. Zenthor's eyes went wide as Maya grabbed the arm that had meant to strike her and used it as a lever. The movement was simple but perfect. Zenthor hit the ground hard enough to crack the training floor. For one perfect moment, Maya stood over her opponent with her foot positioned near Zenthor's throat, exactly where Master Zorvax had taught her to aim. The training hall was silent. No one had expected this. No one had believed it was possible. Then the moment ended and Maya stepped back because the match was over and she had won. She had actually won. For the first time since coming to this academy, she had defeated someone in combat. Zenthor stood up slowly. There was something new in those large, dark eyes now. Not pity, not contempt. Something that looked almost like respect. How did you do that? Zenthor asked. I was watching for your movements. I should have seen that coming. Maya smiled for the first time in months. You were watching for the movements you expected. I showed you something different. Master Zorvax stood at the edge of the training hall and said nothing. But Maya saw the instructor's massive head nod once, just slightly, and she knew that something important had changed. Word spread quickly through the academy. The human who could not do anything had defeated a genetically perfected Korthan warrior. It should have been impossible. It went against everything the other candidates believed about the natural order of the universe. Strong species dominated, weak species served or died. That was how things worked. That was how things had always worked. But Maya was still here. And she was learning. And she was getting better. The administrators of the academy noticed too. They reviewed recordings of her training sessions. They analyzed her combat style and her learning patterns. They compared her progress to the progress of every other candidate who had ever attended the academy. What they found disturbed them. Maya was not supposed to be here. The selection process that had chosen her was the same process that had selected billions of candidates over 40,000 years. It did not make mistakes. But when they looked at Maya's file, they found something strange. Her name should not have been in the system at all. There was no record of her being scanned. There was no record of her potential being measured. She had simply appeared in the acceptance list as if someone had added her manually. This was not possible. The selection process was automated and protected by security systems that could not be broken. No one could add names to the list. No one could change the results. The process was sacred and perfect and incorruptible. Yet here was Maya Chen, a human from a primitive world. A candidate who should not exist. The administrators decided to watch her more closely. They assigned hidden observers to follow her movements. They recorded every word she spoke and every action she took. They were looking for answers to a question they did not yet understand. Meanwhile, Maya continued to train and study and fail and try again. She did not know that she was being watched. She did not know that her presence at the academy was impossible. She only knew that she was here, and that she had to survive, and that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to understand how. The months passed like water flowing downhill, sometimes slow, and sometimes rushing, but always moving forward. Maya stopped counting her failures because there were too many to remember. She started counting her small victories instead. A technique mastered, a test passed, a sparring match that did not end with her bleeding on the floor. These moments were rare, but they kept her going. Her body was changing. The constant training had stripped away every soft part of her and replaced it with lean muscle that moved without thinking. Her reflexes had sharpened until she could react to attacks before her conscious mind even registered the danger. She had lost weight she could not afford to lose and gained it back as something harder, something that did not break as easily. Her mind was changing too. The Academy's education covered subjects that human scientists had not even imagined yet. Quantum mechanics was just the beginning. She learned about dimensions that folded into each other like paper. She learned about energy states that existed outside normal space. She learned about technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level and weapons that could destroy stars. Most of it was too complex for her to truly understand. But she absorbed what she could and faked understanding of the rest. The other candidates had stopped ignoring her. Her victory against Zenthor had earned her something that felt almost like respect, though it came with suspicion and curiosity that made her uncomfortable. Some candidates approached her to ask about her training methods. Others challenged her to matches, wanting to test themselves against the strange human who kept refusing to fail properly. Maya accepted every challenge. She won some and lost most, but each fight taught her something new. She learned to read body language across species that communicated in completely different ways. She learned that fear was universal, that anger made creatures sloppy, that overconfidence created openings that could be exploited. She built a mental library of weaknesses and strategies that grew larger every day. Zenthor became something unexpected, a training partner. The Korthan had been humiliated by losing to a species considered inferior, but that humiliation had transformed into fascination. Zenthor wanted to understand how Maya had done it. They started meeting in the training halls after official classes ended, sparring and discussing technique and pushing each other to improve. "You think differently than we do," Zenthor said one evening after their practice session. They were sitting on the crystal floor, catching their breath, watching the artificial stars through the transparent ceiling. "We are raised to believe that strength determines everything. The strong survive, the weak die. It is simple. But you do not think this way." Maya considered this. On Earth, humans have not always been strong. We were small and soft and had no claws or fangs. But we survived because we learned to think around problems instead of through them. We built tools. We made plans. We worked together. That is how we became the dominant species on our planet. Dominant on a single world, Zenthor said. But there was no malice in the words. You have not even begun to explore your own star system. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys compared to what the galactic civilizations possess. I know, Maya admitted. But we are young. You said your species has been perfecting itself for 10,000 years. Humans have only had written language for about 6,000. Give us time. Zenthor made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. I do not think the universe will give you that time, human. Other species see Earth and see resources to be claimed. Your world is protected only by the galactic laws that prevent exploitation of pre-contact civilizations. But those laws can change. They have changed before. This thought kept Maya awake at night. She had come to understand how small and vulnerable Earth truly was. Her home planet floated in a vast ocean of stars filled with civilizations that had been traveling between worlds when humans were still learning to make fire. If those civilizations decided that Earth had value, there would be nothing to stop them from taking it. She pushed these fears down and focused on her training. She could not save Earth by worrying. She could only save Earth by becoming strong enough to matter. During her 7th month at the academy, Maya discovered something that changed everything. She was studying late in the library, which was a room the size of a city that contained all the knowledge accumulated by galactic civilization. Information floated through the air as holographic displays that responded to thought. Maya had been searching for historical records of other species that had risen quickly from primitive origins, hoping to find strategies that humans could use. Instead, she found a restricted file about the selection process. The file should not have been accessible to her. It was locked behind security protocols that only senior administrators could bypass. But when Maya reached for it, the security simply opened. She did not know why. She did not question it. She read. The selection process was not just an automated system. It was a living intelligence, an artificial mind older than most civilizations, created by the same ancient beings who had built the Academy world. This mind watched all life in the galaxy. It observed trillions of creatures across millions of worlds, and sometimes, rarely, it reached out and touched someone with potential. But Maya had not been touched. The record showed no scan of Earth, no analysis of her potential, nothing that would explain her presence at the Academy. Her file simply existed, appearing in the system without origin or explanation. There was a note attached to her file. It was written in a language the translator could not process. Maya stared at the symbols for a long time, and slowly, impossibly, they began to make sense. She will be the bridge, the note said. When the darkness comes, she will stand at the center. This is not a prediction. This is a requirement. Maya did not understand what this meant. She saved a copy of the file to her personal device and continued her research with trembling hands. Something was happening. Something beyond her control. She had been placed here for a purpose, but she did not know what that purpose was or who had decided it. She kept this discovery secret. She did not tell Master Zorvax or Zenthor or anyone else. She continued her training as if nothing had changed. But inside, a new fire was burning. She was not just fighting to survive anymore. She was preparing for something. She did not know what. The academy year moved toward its midpoint. Candidates were sorted into tracks based on their performance and abilities. Most went into specialized programs that would train them to be soldiers or scientists or diplomats. The best candidates were selected for the elite program, which produced the leaders who would shape galactic civilization for generations. Maya was placed in the general program, which was the track for candidates who showed no exceptional talent in any area. It was where failures went to complete their training without embarrassing the academy. The other general program candidates were a mixed group. Some had given up, some were simply average, and some had specific problems that prevented them from excelling elsewhere. Maya did not care about the classification. She trained just as hard in the general program as she would have trained anywhere else. She continued her private sessions with Master Zorvax. She continued sparring with Zenthor and the other candidates who would practice with her. She kept studying the forbidden file she had found, trying to understand the prophecy or warning or whatever it was. Then the incident happened. It began with an alarm that echoed through the entire academy world. Every candidate stopped what they were doing. Every instructor paused mid-lesson. Every administrator looked up from their work with fear in their eyes. This alarm had not sounded in over 2,000 years. The academy was under attack. Maya was in the training hall when the announcement came. She ran to the viewing platforms with thousands of other candidates and watched as ships appeared in the space around the academy world. The ships were black and angular and did not match any design she recognized. They did not broadcast identification signals. They did not respond to communication attempts. They simply surrounded the academy and waited. "What are they?" Maya asked Zenthor, who stood beside her with shock on that familiar alien face. "I do not know," Zenthor admitted. "I have studied every known civilization, every warship design, every combat fleet in the galaxy. I have never seen anything like this." Master Zorvax appeared beside them. The massive instructor looked older than Maya had ever seen, as if centuries of hidden age had suddenly become visible. "They are the Voidborn," Master Zorvax said quietly. "We thought they were extinct. We thought they had been destroyed in the wars before the academy was built. We were wrong." The next hours were chaos. The academy activated defense systems that had not been used in millennia. Candidates were ordered to their quarters and told to wait for instructions. Instructors prepared for combat. Administrators sent desperate messages to every corner of the galaxy, calling for help that might not arrive in time. Maya did not go to her quarters. She went to the command center. Not because she was supposed to be there, but because she needed to know what was happening. Security systems that should have stopped her opened at her approach, just as the library security had opened before. She walked through doors that only the highest administrators could access. She found the Academy's Council of Masters gathered around a holographic display of the attacking fleet. These were the most powerful beings in the institution, creatures who had shaped galactic history for thousands of years. They looked terrified. "The shields will not hold," one of them was saying. "The Void-born technology is too advanced. We have perhaps 6 hours before they breach our defenses. Our weapons are useless against their ships," another said. "We have fired everything we have. Nothing penetrates their armor. Evacuation is impossible. There are over 1 million candidates. We cannot transport them all before the shields fail." Maya stood in the doorway and listened. No one noticed her at first because they were too focused on their impending destruction. When Master Zorvax finally saw her, the instructor's expression was unreadable. "You should not be here, human," Master Zorvax said, but made no move to remove her. "What do the Voidborn want?" Maya asked. "Why are they attacking?" The council exchanged glances. One of them, an ancient being whose species Maya could not identify, finally spoke. "The Voidborn do not want anything in the way you understand. They are destroyers. They consume civilizations. They ended the first galactic age 800,000 years ago. They wiped out the beings who built this academy. We thought they were gone. We thought we were safe. There must be something we can do," Maya insisted. "Some weakness, some way to fight back." "There is no way," the ancient being said. "The original builders tried everything. They were more advanced than any civilization that exists today. They created weapons that could shatter planets, shields that could survive the death of stars. None of it worked against the Voidborn. In the end, they sacrificed themselves to banish the enemy. We do not know how they did it. The knowledge was lost." Maya thought about the file she had found, the note that said she would be the bridge, the prophecy or warning that someone had written in a language that only she could read. "Let me try something," she said. The council stared at her. A human from a primitive world asking to solve a problem that had destroyed civilizations. It was absurd. It was impossible. But they had no other options. Master Zorvax stepped forward. "She has proven herself to be unusual. She should not be here at all. The selection process did not choose her. Something else did. Perhaps we should listen to what she has to say." Maya did not have a plan. She only had an instinct, a feeling deep in her chest that told her she could do something. She remembered the note from the file. She will be the bridge. When the darkness comes, she will stand at the center. "I need access to the original builder's archives," Maya said. "Everything you have from before the Voidborn were banished. I need to see it." The ancient council member made a gesture and a holographic interface appeared before Maya. "The archives are here. But they are damaged and incomplete. We have spent thousands of years trying to understand them. What do you expect to find that we could not?" Maya did not answer. She touched the interface and closed her eyes, letting the information flow into her mind. It was too much data for any normal brain to process. It should have overwhelmed her, broken her, driven her mad. Instead, she felt something click into place deep inside her consciousness. She saw the original builders. She saw what they had created and why. She saw the Void-born as they truly were, not invaders from space but something older and stranger. She saw the sacrifice that had banished them and the price that had been paid, and she saw what needed to be done now. When she opened her eyes, 3 hours had passed. The shields were failing. The Void-born ships were moving closer. The candidates were panicking. The instructors were preparing for a final battle they could not win. "I know what to do," Maya said. The council turned to her. In their eyes, she saw desperation and hope and fear mixed together. They did not believe a human could save them. But they had nothing else. "The Void-born are not from our dimension," Maya explained, speaking quickly because there was no time. "They come from a place between realities, a space that touches all universes. The original builders could not destroy them, because you cannot destroy something that does not exist in our reality, but they could be sent back. The builders created a device that opened a door to the Void-born's home and pushed them through. That device still exists. It is built into the core of this world. We know about the device," the ancient council member said. "We have tried to activate it. It requires a key that was destroyed when the builders sacrificed themselves." "Not destroyed," Maya said. "Hidden. The key is not an object. The key is a person, someone who can connect to all realities at once, someone who can serve as a bridge between dimensions." Understanding dawned on the council's faces. Master Zorvax stepped forward with something like horror in those alien eyes. "You. The selection process did not choose you. The builders did. They placed you here for this moment." Maya nodded slowly. "I think so. I do not understand how, but I think I was created for this. Or changed. Or something else I cannot explain. But I can feel the device calling to me. I can feel the door waiting to be opened. If you connect to the device, you could die," the ancient council member warned. "The original builders who served as keys did not survive. Their minds were destroyed by contact with the space between realities." Maya thought about Earth. She thought about her grandmother and the noodle shop and the cold rice she had eaten on that morning when everything changed. She thought about all the humans who had never seen the stars and never would if the Void-born destroyed this academy and moved on to consume the rest of the galaxy. "Then I die," she said. "But maybe I can take the Void-born with me." The council did not argue. There was no time for arguments. They led Maya to the core of the academy world, a chamber that had not been opened in 800,000 years. The walls were covered in the same symbols that only Maya could read. The floor was made of something that felt alive under her feet. In the center of the chamber stood a pillar of light that reached up into infinity. Maya walked toward the pillar. With each step, she felt more of her old self falling away. The girl who had failed her university exams. The woman who worked at a convenience store. The candidate who could not keep up with her classmates. All of it was becoming distant, like memories of someone else's life. She reached out and touched the light. The universe exploded inside her mind. She felt every dimension at once, every possible reality overlapping and intersecting in patterns too complex for words. She felt the Void-born as a cold emptiness pressing against the walls of existence. She felt the academy and everyone in it as bright sparks of life floating in an ocean of darkness. She felt herself stretching, expanding, becoming something larger than a single human consciousness, and she felt the door. It was old and massive and beautiful. It had been waiting for 800,000 years for someone to open it. Maya gathered all her strength, all her will, all the stubborn refusal to give up that had kept her going through every failure and every defeat. She pushed against the door. It resisted. The Void-born felt what she was doing and screamed across dimensions, their ships accelerating toward the academy in a desperate attempt to stop her. But Maya did not stop. She could not stop. She was the key, and she was the bridge, and she was doing exactly what she had been created to do. The door opened. Light poured through the academy world. The Void-born ships froze in space, their cold intelligence suddenly recognizing what was happening. Then they began to move toward the door. Not by choice, but because the door was pulling them home. Maya felt her mind starting to break. The strain was too great. Human consciousness was not designed for this. But she held on, forcing the door to stay open until every Voidborn had been pulled through, until the last of their ships disappeared into the space between realities. Then the door closed, and Maya fell. The darkness lasted for what felt like forever. Maya floated in a space without form or meaning, aware that she existed but unsure of what she was. Memories drifted past like leaves on water, her grandmother teaching her to fold dumplings, the smell of rain on concrete, the weight of failure pressing down on her chest during exam season, the feeling of hitting the ground after Zenthor threw her that first time. The look in Master Zorvax's eyes when she finally won a fight. She tried to hold on to these memories. They felt important. They felt like pieces of a puzzle that made up who she was. But they kept slipping away, dissolving into the emptiness around her. Then a voice spoke from somewhere and everywhere at once. "You are still here." Interesting. Maya did not know how to respond. She had no mouth, no body, no physical form. She existed only as a point of awareness in an infinite void. The others did not survive, the voice continued. The original builders who served as keys. Their minds could not handle the strain. They burned away within moments of connection. But you have been here for 3 days, and you are still aware. Still thinking. Still you. 3 days? It felt like seconds and centuries at the same time. Who are you? Maya managed to think the question. Not speak it. I am what remains of those who built this place. We sacrificed our physical forms to banish the void, born the first time. But consciousness does not simply disappear. It transforms. We became part of the structure of this world, watching and waiting for the day when the Voidborn would return. Why me? Maya asked. Why did you choose me? We did not choose you, the voice said. We created the conditions for your existence. 800,000 years ago, we saw that the Voidborn would return. We calculated the precise moment of their arrival. We traced the lines of causality backward and found the species that would produce the individual capable of stopping them. Your ancestors were nothing special at that time, small creatures on a young planet, but they had potential. All living things have potential. We simply ensured that their potential would develop in the right direction. Maya struggled to understand. You shaped human evolution? For 800,000 years? Not shaped, guided, encouraged. Your species made its own choices, but we placed opportunities in your path. Technologies that would help you grow, challenges that would force you to adapt. We watched generation after generation of your kind develop the traits we needed. Resilience, creativity, stubbornness, the ability to keep fighting when all hope was gone. When you were born, we knew you were the one we had been waiting for. The selection process didn't accept me, Maya said. The file said I shouldn't have been there at all. The selection process is a tool we created, the voice explained. We can override it when necessary. We added your name to the list because you needed to be at the academy when the Voidborn arrived. You needed the training that only this place could provide. The selection process could not understand why you belonged here because it does not know about the Voidborn or the door or the key. It only knows about potential as it exists in normal reality. Your potential is different. Your potential exists across dimensions. Maya thought about this for a long time. She thought about all the candidates who had looked down on her, all the instructors who had dismissed her, all the records that showed she was the worst student in centuries. They had measured her by the wrong standards. They had expected her to be a warrior or a scientist or a leader because those were the things the academy valued. But she was something else entirely. She was a weapon built for a single purpose, shaped by the hands of beings who had died before humanity learned to walk upright. What happens now? She asked. Now you have a choice. Your mind is still connected to the door between dimensions. You can release that connection and return to your normal existence. You will wake up in the Academy's medical facility with damage to your neural systems that may or may not heal. You will be a hero. You will be celebrated. But you will also be limited. The part of you that touched infinity will be gone, and you will spend the rest of your life feeling incomplete. Or you can hold on to the connection. You can remain as you are now, existing in multiple realities at once. You will have power beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. You will be able to sense threats before they materialize, open doors between dimensions at will, and protect your species from any enemy that might threaten them. But you will never be fully human again. You will never experience life the way you did before. You will be something new, something that has never existed. Maya thought about Earth. She thought about the conversation she had with Zenthor about how vulnerable her home planet truly was. She thought about all the civilizations in the galaxy that were stronger and older and more advanced than humanity. She thought about what would happen if she returned to normal life and left Earth unprotected. Can I protect them? She asked. If I choose to stay like this, can I make sure no one ever threatens Earth? You can try. The future is not fixed, but you will have the power to fight for them in ways no human has ever been able to fight before. The choice was not really a choice at all. I'll stay, Maya said. I'll become whatever I need to become. Light flooded through the void, and Maya felt herself changing. Her consciousness expanded to fill spaces that had been empty. New senses opened up, senses that perceived reality in ways she could not have imagined before. She felt the shape of dimensions overlapping, the flow of causality connecting past and future, the living minds of trillions of beings scattered across the galaxy. And she felt Earth, small and blue and fragile, floating in the outer edge of the galaxy, home to 8 billion minds that had no idea how close they had come to extinction, home to a species that was just beginning its journey into the stars. Maya wrapped her consciousness around that world like a shield. Whatever came next, whatever enemies or challenges or catastrophes might threaten humanity, they would have to go through her first. She opened her eyes. The medical facility was white and quiet and filled with machines she did not recognize. She lay on a bed that had been adjusted for human physiology, surrounded by monitors displaying readings that made no sense. Master Zorvac stood beside her bed, looking older and more tired than she had ever seen. You survived, the instructor said. The words were flat, almost disbelieving. I did more than survive, Maya replied. Her voice sounded different, deeper, more resonant, as if multiple versions of herself were speaking at once. Master Zorvac studied her with those ancient eyes. The council felt it when you made your choice. They felt your consciousness expand across dimensions. They are afraid of you now. They do not know what you have become or what you might do. I am not going to hurt anyone, Maya said. I am going to protect people. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I believe you, Master Zorvac said. But belief is not enough for the council. They want to study you. They want to understand what you are. They want to make sure you are not a threat. Maya sat up slowly. Her body felt strange, as if it was only partially real, as if parts of her existed in places that could not be seen. She flexed her fingers and watched reality ripple slightly around them. Tell the council that I am happy to speak with them, she said. But I am not staying here to be studied. I have things to do. What things? Maya smiled, and in that smile was something vast and ancient and new all at once. I am going to show the galaxy what humans are capable of. I am going to make sure that no one ever underestimates my species again. The council summoned her that afternoon. They gathered in a chamber designed to project power and authority, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform where the person being judged would stand. Maya walked to that platform without fear because she could feel the minds of every council member, could sense their thoughts and fears and hopes without even trying. You have changed, the ancient council member said. We can feel it. You are no longer what you were when you came to this academy. I was never what you thought I was, Maya replied. You saw a weak human from a primitive world. You saw someone who should not have been here, but I was placed here by the beings who built this academy, shaped over 800,000 years to become the key that would save you all. You were looking at a miracle and you thought you were looking at a mistake. Silence filled the chamber. The council members exchanged glances filled with uncertainty. What do you want? One of them finally asked. You have power now, power that we cannot match. You could make demands. You could take control of this academy, this world, perhaps the entire galaxy. What is your intention? Maya thought about this question carefully. She had imagined many things during her months at the academy. Revenge against those who had mocked her. Recognition from those who had dismissed her. Power over those who had made her feel small. But now that she actually had the ability to take all of these things, she found that she did not want them. I want humanity to have a place in the galaxy, she said. A real place, not the forgotten corner where you put pre-contact civilizations and hope they do not cause problems. I want Earth to be recognized as a member of galactic society. I want humans to have access to the knowledge and technology and opportunities that other species take for granted. I want my people to be given a chance to prove what they can become. And if we refuse? Maya let her consciousness expand just slightly, enough for the council to feel the edges of what she had become. She did not threaten. She did not need to threaten. The simple demonstration of her power was enough to make every council member understand that refusal was not really an option. I do not think you will refuse, she said quietly. I think you will recognize that humanity has earned its place through me. I saved this academy. I saved everyone here. The least you can do is give my species a chance. The council agreed to her terms because they had no choice. Within days, messages were sent to every civilization in the galaxy, announcing that Earth had been elevated from a pre-contact world to a provisional member of the galactic community. Human ambassadors would be welcomed. Human scientists would be given access to knowledge repositories. Human traders would be allowed to participate in interstellar commerce. The quarantine that had kept humanity isolated for 300 years was over. News reached Earth 2 weeks later. Maya watched from the academy as her home planet responded with confusion, then fear, then excitement. Religious leaders debated what it meant. Politicians argued about how to proceed. Scientists demanded access to the alien technologies that had suddenly become available. Ordinary people looked up at the stars and realized for the first time that they were not alone. Maya returned to Earth at the end of her first year at the academy. She traveled in a personal ship that had been given to her by the council, a vessel so advanced that human engineers would spend years trying to understand its basic systems. She descended through the atmosphere and landed in the parking lot behind the abandoned factory where her journey had begun. Her grandmother was waiting for her. The old woman looked smaller than Maya remembered, her hair more gray, her back more bent. But her eyes were the same, sharp and bright and full of the stubbornness that Maya had inherited. You look different, her grandmother said in Mandarin. I am different, Maya replied in the same language. I went through some things. I saw you on the news feeds. They say you saved the galaxy. The news feeds exaggerate. Her grandmother made a sound that was half laugh and half dismissal. Do not be modest. I raised you better than that. If you saved the galaxy, you should be proud of it. They walked together through streets that Maya barely recognized. So much had changed in the year she had been gone. Alien technologies were starting to appear everywhere. New buildings were being constructed using methods that human engineers were only beginning to understand. People walked with devices in their hands that could access the entirety of galactic knowledge. The world was transforming before her eyes. Are you staying? Her grandmother asked as they approached the noodle shop. Maya thought about her duties at the academy, her responsibilities to the council, her role as the bridge between dimensions. She thought about the enemies that might still threaten humanity and the dangers that lurked in the spaces between realities. She thought about all the reasons why she should not stay, why she could not stay, why her life was no longer small enough to fit in a noodle shop in a forgotten town. For a little while, she said, I need to remember where I came from. They ate noodles together that night, sitting in the kitchen where Maya had grown up. The food tasted exactly as she remembered, rich and warm and filled with love. Her grandmother told her stories about the customers who had come and gone, the neighbors who had asked about her, the changes that had swept through the town since the galaxy came to Earth. You are not human anymore, her grandmother said eventually. I can see it in your eyes. You have become something else. Part of me is still human, Maya said. The part that loves you. The part that loves this place. I will always keep that part. No matter what else I become. Her grandmother reached across the table and took her hand. The old woman's fingers were rough from decades of work, but her grip was gentle. Then that is enough. You go and do what you need to do. Protect the galaxy. Save civilizations, but remember to come home sometimes. Remember that you still have family here, who loves you. Maya promised that she would, and she meant it. She returned to the academy the following week. The council had prepared a special position for her, a role that had never existed before. She would be the guardian of the threshold, responsible for monitoring the space between dimensions and ensuring that the Voidborn could never return. She would be the first line of defense against threats that other civilizations could not even perceive. But she was also something more. She was proof that humans could stand among the greatest beings in the galaxy. She was evidence that a species dismissed as primitive and unimportant could produce individuals of extraordinary power. She was the beginning of a new chapter in human history. Other humans began arriving at the academy in the years that followed. They were chosen through the standard selection process now, identified as candidates with genuine potential. They struggled just as Maya had struggled. They failed just as she had failed. But they had something that she had not possessed when she first arrived: hope. They knew that a human had succeeded here before. They knew that the galaxy's assessment of humanity was wrong. Maya watched them grow and learn and become strong. She mentored some of them personally, teaching the lessons that Master Zorvax had taught her. She pushed them to be better than they thought they could be. She refused to let them give up. "Why do you care so much?" one of the new candidates asked her after a particularly brutal training session. "You could be anywhere in the galaxy. You have more power than any of us will ever have. Why do you spend your time teaching us?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about her first day at the academy, lying on the ground after Zenthor had defeated her in 4 seconds. She thought about the shame and the loneliness, and the desperate determination that had kept her going when everyone expected her to fail. "Because someone did the same for me," she finally said. "Because I know what it feels like to be the weakest person in the room. And because I believe that every human who comes here deserves the chance to prove that they belong." The candidate looked at her with something like understanding. Then they got back up and continued training. 10 years after Maya first arrived at the academy, humanity had produced over 1,000 graduates. They spread across the galaxy as scientists and diplomats and warriors, carrying the name of their species into places it had never been before. They built alliances with civilizations that had ignored Earth for centuries. They discovered technologies that would transform human society. They proved, again and again, that the galaxy had been wrong to underestimate them. And Maya watched it all from her position as guardian of the threshold. She monitored the dimensions for threats. She protected the academy from dangers that no one else could perceive. She remembered her grandmother's words and returned to Earth when she could, eating noodles in the kitchen and telling stories about the wonders she had seen. She was no longer fully human. She existed in multiple realities at once. Her consciousness spread across dimensions that most beings could not even imagine. But she had kept the part of herself that mattered, the part that refused to give up, the part that loved her home and her family and her species. The part that was still, in the ways that counted, the girl who had been accepted by mistake. The galaxy had expected her to fail. The academy had recorded her as the worst student in centuries. The other candidates had dismissed her as a primitive creature who did not belong, but Maya Chen had proven them all wrong. She had become a miracle. And she was just the beginning. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue planet at the edge of known space, new generations of humans were being born. They would grow up in a world that knew about the stars, that understood its place in a vast and ancient universe. Some of them would come to the academy. Some would become warriors or scientists or leaders. Some would discover powers and abilities that no one could predict. And they would all carry with them the legacy of the girl who had been accepted by mistake, the girl who had refused to give up, the girl who had saved the galaxy and opened the door for her entire species to walk through. The story of humanity among the stars had only just begun, and it was going to be magnificent.